Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's first episode of Hotline League. This is the one where we are just doing it from the TGI studio because in a couple days we will be doing the live version of this show at OSNYC in New York in collaboration with CLG, who's holding an event there. So it's going to be really cool. Mark is not here, but he will be. Look, my hand just extends into the box. But he will be in approximately 10 to 15 minutes. We're starting the show an hour late, and I didn't want to start it any later because he had to record the dive, and that took forever because he said that the people that were on the closing of the world's broadcast were taking too long, and so we brought one of them here, which is Chronicler. Chronicler joining us for today's episode. How's it going, Chronicler?
I'm doing very well. I'm very tired.
Yes.
But I've had a really good time working on play-ins. I always really like play-ins. I think they're a very underappreciated part of Worlds. And yeah, I've been having a great time.
I appreciate you saying yes, because when I reached out to you today, you were on the broadcast, and I was like, oh, I had thought, I've been so busy planning the
You've reached the
Worlds.
maximum length for voice messages.
Oh, okay.
Goodbye.
We've called
Thank you,
Mark
Mark.
on Skype, and we tried to leave him a voicemail, and we left a very long one.
said no.
apparently. Anyway, so as I was saying, yeah, I reached out to you. You were on the broadcast. I'd meant to reach out to you days ago, but I've been so busy trying to lock venues and everything that I was like, oh crap, we're doing the show tonight, and I forgot to reach out to Chronicler. Then you said you were down, and I expected you not to be because I knew you were on the broadcast. I knew you were traveling tomorrow. I'm surprised that you had the energy for this.
Oh, I really don't.
Okay.
But we just persevere. We of the LCK have a completely unreasonable work schedule, so I personally thought it'd be cool to extend that into Worlds, as opposed to just doing it during the LCK. You know,
Gotcha.
really keep the drive high. No, jokes aside, I just thought it'd be fun in the cab over here. I was like, I don't know if this was a good idea.
Okay,
But,
well, it's good. I'm glad that you're managing expectations.
I made it, and that's the
This is
important
not the
part.
first time that within the first 3 minutes of the show starting, our guest has admitted that they regret agreeing to do the show. So
Yeah, that's good.
I'm
I'm
happy
happy to hear.
Yes, yes. And again, we'll have Mark joining us any minute now. But I do want to shout out Alienware and Grubhub for sponsoring today's episode. We will talk more about them as the show goes on. Also, some maintenance, or I don't know if it's called maintenance, some little things that we need to do. So one, we are doing this show live, again, from OSNYC in New York in about 48 hours from now. So it'll be taking place at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, which is 6 o'clock Pacific Time. So it's about an hour earlier than you normally watch the show. This episode is also late. Whatever. Normally the show starts at 7 Pacific. It's starting at 6 Pacific because otherwise it would be very late. So that'll be happening in New York. We still have tickets available to sign up. If you're watching live right now, there's a link that Numi put in the chat. There's an Eventbrite. Basically, we have 150 reserve seats, and then we're going to do general admission afterwards. And so if you get the reserve seat, make sure you show up before 8 because afterwards we're going to let general admission people in. So read the fine print on the Eventbrite. And if you're watching the VOD of this, I probably am in flight and forgot to put the link into the description for the Eventbrite. So go find it on my Twitter. So that'll be on Thursday. So be sure to tune in live. Doublelift will be on that episode for about half of it. He will also be co-streaming the episode, which is something that I could not get him to do despite being one of his closest friends, but Chipotle can because they're sponsoring the episode, and so they're making him do it. Thank God. Other than that, I'll be doing Worlds coverage. You're going to be in New York as well.
Yeah, I'm there for up until quarters.
Up until quarters.
Up
Okay,
until
so you're
quarters.
going through groups.
I'm not an Atlantean or a
Well,
San
quarters is
Francisco.
in New York.
Yeah, I'm still in quarters.
Oh, you said up until.
up, including.
Including.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
through New York. Okay.
That's my my lacking English coming through.
No, it's
unfortunately.
fine. Are you able to save your casting or analyst desk or both?
I have no idea.
You have no
idea.
idea?
I would tell you if I know. No, I do know, but I like to keep it secret.
Okay. It's all
Actually, I don't know for quarters, but I know for groups.
okay. You
But
know for groups.
groups will be. I'm very excited for the desk and casts that will be happening, and I'm sure the community sentiment will be similar.
Okay, cool. Also, we should be pouring one out for Pastry Time, who announced shortly after the broadcast today that he's no longer going to be casting in North America for League of Legends. So shout out to Pastry Time. You can go read his post, but it's a bummer to see him depart. F's in chat for Pastry Time. Okay. What else should I fill with while we wait for Mark Zimmerman to show up? How has what was your take on plans? I know we talked a little bit before the start, but of the show, but
Planes was fun. No, I'm kidding. I really enjoyed. Oh, well,
you're kidding. It was not.
I'm not kidding about the planes being fun.
Planes was grueling.
But I should have let it linger longer. I didn't, so that's on me. Planes was very fun. It is actually grueling. So we didn't even get it that bad. We could have gotten like 8 to 10 hour game days. It was just 8 games. We never really got beyond that. But I do really think that Planes, as I mentioned when we were talking previously, is a very underappreciated part of Worlds. Not just from a viewer perspective, because most people only care about their own teams. I say this only caring about LCK teams, so I kind of get it. But also from a talent perspective, it is really hard because Planes is both the least appreciated as well as the hardest in terms of prep from a broadcasting perspective.
Yeah, Emily was talking about that today too.
Well, Emily doesn't count because Emily is a
machine.
Human, I don't know, the peak form of humanity in League of Legends. So her saying that is still true, but also she actually is one of the people that is absurdly knowledgeable about every region, in my opinion. But for me, for example, I had to prep a lot because I have not watched any league at all about for like the last year, except Korean League.
Yeah,
so,
you were about to say any league, and I was like, that's very impressive.
Well, I mean,
you've been casting the LCK,
while
not even watching it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could have tried with some of the gameplay in the LCK, but generally, that doesn't really work.
Oh, I just missed a call. Oops. Okay, so we're coordinating so many things ahead of the departure tomorrow. Okay, what else? Okay, so you did plans. You mentioned that the games only went up to 8. However,
day one.
There was day one, which was insane because of the amount of delays and pauses and all that stuff. How did you suffer through that? Because in the crazy thing, and I'm not going to flame, Riot for this, but the crazy thing is that RNG and who was it that they played that went on that last match? DRX.
Yeah.
They started after midnight. In Mexico City. That is crazy.
Yeah, I think the worst part of that was that everyone that tested positive the next day, so they got a bad, I don't know what happened practically, but clearly something went very, very wrong.
The rumor was, well, I will say, because I don't want to put you in the position of having to say it, the rumor was that something went very strange with the testing, and 70 people or something like that all tested positive, and so it was a huge issue. Then they all tested negative later on. So
I mean that's the only, I don't know what the specifics of that were, but clearly that was the case. I'm trying to remember who was on that desk, because I'd imagine it was Jet. It was Jet, Lyric, and Dash. Actually, I do remember because they did the hop and skip.
Yes.
Those days are absurd. From a viewer perspective, they're really boring because nothing is happening. From a casting and broadcast perspective, they're just the worst.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I feel like it would behoove the world's broadcast team, or just all broadcast teams, to have a bunch of break in case of emergency videos and stuff like that to play.
Well, in a perfect world where you have the resources, then you would. But generally, in my experience, that is something that is very far down the list of priorities.
Yes. Well, there's a great repository on YouTube called youtube.com/Travis Gafford that I think they should just have playlists.
Have that up.
Yeah. All of Surprise Test. Just play all of Surprise Test. and that would be fine. I'll let them know next time that, and in case of an emergency, they can do that. So
You should let them know.
yes, but at least to give you guys a bit of a break. I mean, it's just
I didn't
exhausting.
if I had worked that day, I would have actually. I don't know what would have happened,
It
but
would
I
have
was
broken down.
Yeah, because I was. If you thought my jet lag on like my second day of Analyst Desk was bad, which
Yeah.
it was, I basically didn't exist on day one, and even my second day, which was day 4, was still very easy.
Yeah.
I feel like today's the first day where I can actually use my brain even remotely, which isn't that great.
I feel a little guilty having you on the show given all this, but I also feel like I'm helping you with your jet lag. Because I'm forcing you to stay awake and conscious.
I mean, you don't really have responsibility for me saying yes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could just said no.
Yes.
So,
But
you
still,
have to feel bad.
You know, I feel bad at times.
It's all right.
Okay, so other than that, maybe we can get into one of our first callers because Mark is still not here.
Oh my god.
And he should be popping up any second. But I'm tired of having to fill, so why don't we do that? Okay, I never do this, but we are going to try to pull somebody from the room who had like a good take that I can. You know what? We're gonna give Mark 2 more minutes. I'm too scared.
It's like this. It's his thing.
He handles well. Normally, what happens is he goes from the start, or he goes from our room into the waiting room, checks audio, makes sure that the people are not insane, and then he has a whole conversation with them, and then pulls them in. I'm a little worried about doing it.
A little
without him.
intimidating.
Yes.
Yeah, understandably.
So yes, when will Mark get here? So Mark, if you're tuning in now, we have exactly 1,000 viewers right at the moment. If you're tuning in now, Mark is wrapping up the dive. He's in his vehicle and he is on the way. I think he should be getting into his apartment right now. So he will be joining the Discord, and we'll suddenly hear his voice boom through, and everything will be good.
Everything will be all right.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. How do you think, is LCK the final boss at this year's Worlds? Is it LPL? Is LCK, if you had to expect, okay, we've got historic performance from LCK. Do you think they will overperform, they'll hit their previous bar, or they'll underperform this year, given everything that you've watched of them?
That depends who you ask, because I think
I'm asking you.
It depends who you ask, regardless. Because with expectation setting, the popular opinion I'd say is that there are 3 teams that are expected to win Worlds, which are Gen G, JDG, and Top. Right? Those are the kind of the run of the mill.
Yeah.
I personally think that between LCK and LPL, it's fairly interchangeable. I think LCK teams are a lot more stable, but LPL teams have shown that their peaks generally are a little higher. My main take, which I did on the broadcast as well, is that I think the gap between the West or I don't really like the West-East thing, between LCK and LPL and every other region is very, very big.
Okay.
And I have predicted every single Eastern team to make it out.
Okay.
So
we have
again,
full...
LCK, LPL. So it's 4 LPL teams, it's 4 LCK teams.
In the
For
quarters.
final, my dream is Gen G Damwon. That's my dream final. What it will probably end up being is an LCK team and an LPL team.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't see a double LPL finals. I don't see double LCK finals. Because I think that the strongest part about the LPL and the biggest edge they have over the LCK, even the LCK teams have been diversifying a little bit more, is that they have a very distinct style. So every LPL team plays a specific style, and if that style is good, the team performs well. And I just don't see every LPL team being good. Like I don't think it ever happens. I think
there's always a fluke.
Yeah, and
sometimes it's even their first seed that like.
I mean, obviously FPX is the easiest example, but I just think it's like stylistically that is just always bound to happen. Not to because FPX was like a historical collapse.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, just like drop out in quarters or like just have a pretty subpar semis. I think. I would really be shocked if it's double LPL final. Yeah, I think LPL LCK is by far the most likely. I just really would like not to lose a fifth game in a best of 5 for 4 times in a row. 3 times was enough, and it's made me very sad.
Okay.
I would just like to win, please.
Are you going to stick around for, like, I know you're not working semis, but is there any chance you're going to try to attend finals?
Oh no, absolutely not. I'll be going back. I don't even know if I'm allowed to, like, because my visa's a work visa, right? So I don't know if I'm.
You could probably go to Canada and then re-enter as a visitor.
Maybe, yeah. But I will go home and catch the finals on a. Actually, the time zone is pretty alright because last year I've done the 10 p.m. to like 6 in the morning schedule.
Yeah.
When I was doing Worlds on MSI remotely from my bedroom or living room, that was horrible.
Yeah.
Never again. But then this MSI, like last MSI, even though the tournament was in Busan, I had to fly to Berlin, which was great. Really enjoyed that. And then the call times were like between 5 and 7 a.m.
Yeah.
That's actually way better.
Yeah.
That's pretty manageable. Like, I don't love it, but
hello,
it's not too bad.
Mark Zimmerman.
Hello.
Welcome to the party.
I'm doing it.
We made it. All right, Mark. How is life?
Miserable.
Oh, you're echoing.
I'm echoing.
I don't think you muted Skype.
Skype's doing its classic. You're not muted, even though you are.
Yes. I assume you don't have your camera turned on.
No, I just have to get the cable connected better. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Hello. Are you able to see us? Okay.
Yep, I can see you guys doing the double camera setup.
Have you ever
good,
met
Chronicler?
Chronicler before? He's a personality within the League of Legends space.
Definitely didn't see him an hour and a half ago.
Okay, very good. I read him the message that you sent about the dive getting delayed because they wouldn't wrap up the post show. So I've tried to instill some level of hostility between the two of you to make this an extra spicy show.
It's a good call.
No, I was only mad at Quickshot.
Oh, okay.
It's very easy to make me hateful, so you don't have to put in a lot of effort there.
Yes. Okay. Well, really quickly, Mark, I've already pulled folks into the waiting room, so we should be good to go. But just to get you acclimated into the show,
he was scared.
How was play-ins for you this past week?
It was pretty good. I think they were a lot of fun. There were some upsets, but at the end of the day, Nature healed and EU beat NA 3/4 for the seeds. RNG won. Everything went according to plan.
Okay, very good. All right. You said EU beat NA. I believe you meant NA beat EU. Yes.
That's going to be how this whole episode is.
Yeah. You and Chronicler are... I'm going to have to carry this. That's what I'm realizing. Chronicler was talking about how he's jet lagged, so it's going to be great. But I think we've done enough back and forth, so why don't we hop into the first call if you want to go grab somebody.
Can you write me a list in Skype of who the order should be? Who's the first person I should grab?
Just YOLO it. Okay, off he goes. Thank you to
do his thing.
Thank you to Gangsta Kardik, Aerohydrus for 2 years. No, 1 year. 2 years. 2 years plus. The Bauer and Kethius for the subs. Really appreciate everybody. Who is the guy on the top right? That's Mark Zimmerman. He's a guy who works on the broadcast. Yeah, no, his hair actually looks managed today because he had to go do the broadcast and they figured stuff out for him. So, all right. Delfino is here. Delfino, where are you calling from?
I'm in Orlando, Florida right now.
Orlando, Florida. And you're a little quiet if you can get a little closer to your microphone. I've turned you up a bunch. But what do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about player branding, especially when it comes to Champions Queue.
Sorry, one more time. To what with regards to Champions Queue?
Player branding.
Player branding. Okay. And what specifically about player branding in Champions Queue?
I think players who aren't streaming Champions Queue, at least semi-regularly, are shooting themselves in the foot, because I've seen streams go from like 50 viewers to like 500, 600, 700 just because of one game, and then like you retain maybe 25 of those viewers, and then your stream just gets bigger.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's like it seems like the freest thing for me.
So for you, you're looking and you're like, why are there these players? And when you say players, I assume you mean like LCS players or some of the other Worlds players that are in the North America and playing on Champions Queue.
Mostly North American players, because I know like the setups for maybe the players that are traveling and stuff for Worlds aren't ideal, and it's hard to stream inside a scrim room and stuff. But like, I mean, some of the Academy players and the LCS players that aren't at Worlds.
Okay. So what about Jojo Pyun? Not Jojo Pyun, even though he's at Worlds, because I know that's the big movement right now is to try to get Jojo Pyun to stream.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the Jojo Pyun stream is that in an EG Files episode, he said he would stream if they won, and he never ended up streaming. And because he's been playing interesting games in Champions Queue, people want him to stream regardless of the world setup.
Gotcha. Okay, so he's the exception because he's made a promise that he's not willing to keep.
Yes.
Okay, so let's turn this into, maybe a broader conversation, I guess, about Champions Queue and streaming and how it's been going. Because I think everybody knew that Champions Queue was going to feel spicy whenever all the players got over here and we had all the World's players in here. But I don't think anybody expected just how crazy it would get. And yeah, I do agree that it's a bit of a missed opportunity to not be streaming it. Mark, what I know, I've seen you tweeting a ton about Champions Queue and how much you've been enjoying it. So what has been your thoughts on Champions Queue so far?
I've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying the casters and mid beasts and everyone streaming them. There is not a ton of there's been a fair amount of muting of the comms, which I think was disappointing after the first night of T1, where like Owner and Zeus and everyone was popping off, and I thought that was going to kind of become the standard. But since then, there's been a bit less just like playfulness of the comms. It feels like a lot of people are taking it pretty seriously and just kind of muting and trying. And the games get pretty troll, but it's been really cool overall. Though I definitely agree with the caller. Like feels like a missed opportunity for some people. Like Spica wasn't streaming his 29 bomb game. Like that came from Brantz actually. That like most people were watching that stream from, I think. So I think people could be streaming a little bit more.
How about you, Chronicler? Should Faker be streaming all of this? He's sitting in there.
Well, I mean, obviously he doesn't have to. And I don't think any established player really gets a lot out of it. I'd also argue that for non-English speaking players, unless you have an interest in a career in an English speaking country, I think.
And who shouldn't want that?
Sorry?
And who shouldn't want that?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go down in that discussion. I think that the added benefit of streaming might not outweigh it, but if you are either a collegiate player or someone that isn't necessarily someone with a huge following, I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, I think you can single-handedly kickstart, like jumpstart a career off of streaming. Like Kadra, I think, is the best example, who did a really good job last year. I think it was at MSI or maybe with at Worlds, where he was the front runner and his stream went from a couple of thousand views to like 20K.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously that's someone who's already established, but it serves more as an example of how quickly you can turn that into, I think, a lot more. And if you're a player, you have like one pop-off game, I think it can really help you. Because I think in the long run, if you can build a personal brand, it's always better than just being a player because it's so risky.
What are our general thoughts on Champions Queue as a whole? Because I think it's been really crazy to see, again, just how big it's become. And it feels like this awesome extra thing on top of Worlds. It's like the dessert or the appetizer whenever the broadcast isn't on. You get to go watch your favorite players like kind of just play these more casual games against each other. I hope that this is something that continues on beyond Worlds in North America. And I don't know how that would work for like if these other regions decide not to bring Champions Queue in. Like I interviewed some of the T1 players and they're like, I don't know if we need Champions Queue. Like it's kind of a cool thing over here because all the Worlds players are here. But so I'm just curious if like this is our flash in the pan moment. We're gonna have to wait till the next international event in North America to get it again.
I don't know to what extent it's better than provided obviously in solo queue the game quality on average might be slightly worse. But if you look at Korean solo queue, there's also an added benefit of having a ton of other good players who might not make it to Worlds, because there's plenty of LCK and LPL players who are still Worlds quality. Although I guess they would also get access to Champs queue. But from a ping and from a specifically KR perspective, I can see why they wouldn't really care, because that's pretty much the high Korean solo queue experience already.
Yeah.
But in the
I think this is
I really like
in
it.
some sense a flat. Oh,
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mark.
oh, sorry, my bad. I was gonna say I think for me it definitely is a bit of a flash in the pan, which even more to the caller's point, you should take advantage of it now, because Champions Queue will of course return. It'll of course always be like relatively popular. Like people like Yukino Cat have made a bit of a career, it feels like, with Champions Queue. Obviously already a talented player who would maybe have a pro career, but maybe got jump started here. But like, this is the optimal time to be capitalizing on that, and you will be at best 4 years before you get to do it again.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a bummer. I wish that they'd bring the server out to other regions, and then, because I think part of the fun is just the likelihood that you end up with what we've seen all these crazy situations. Well, it was like all of G2, and then who was the top later? It was like all of G2 except for Broken Blade. Who was it? Someday Delfino, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's just super fun, and that's not going to happen in a normal environment. And so I guess it's a little why it's a bit of a heartbreaker, is because I feel like this has been such a fun sort of sideshow to Worlds, and something that feels like it's elevating the moment. And so I'm bummed that like this will likely just be a North American only type thing. So I don't know. Delfino, thank you so much for the call, though. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
I want to shout out Numi and Elaine, and also my favorite Champions Queue streamer, Busio.
Busio? Nice. And I will shout out for you the fact that you guys have a podcast as well, which is the Namen. Is that how you pronounce it? Delfino?
It's like N-A-Men.
N-A-Men. Okay. And so it's the LCS fan cast. And I listened this past week, and you guys were discussing your tournament bracket for who was the hottest pro player in the LCS. So
Yes.
very
Good
different content.
Good content.
Yeah, no, it's very different content than what LCS normally gets. I feel like it's probably more the type of content that LCK gets. So people should go check it out, because I think it's pretty good. And amen. Okay, thank you, Delfino, and we'll catch you next time.
You.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware. Alienware sponsors so much of what we do here at Travis Gafford Industries. We're doing all this off of Alienware computers, and it's been fantastic to have them be a partner. They've got amazing new monitors that you can go check out over at alienware.com/Travis. If you do purchase something, please use that link. It's very helpful, because those purchases help go to supporting the business of covering League of Legends esports. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We're going to be taking their I'm going to have my X17. I think Mark will probably be taking his as well. I might even also take my X14 with me to Worlds. Just go crazy. Have multiple Alienware notebooks with me. So either way, thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring. You can find the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on Spotify or another podcast platform, go check out that link over on the YouTube side. It really helps us out. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. Mark is off to grab the next caller. He's full of energy and vigor as he goes to do that. Thank you to some folks who subbed. We've got Zala, I Love Kafefe, Boder Michael, Brandon Brown, who I think for some reason says sub twice, and then Jimbo. Thank you for the subs. We've got I Miss Infinite Crisis here. I Miss Infinite Crisis. Where are you calling from?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Okay. Are you headed to any of the World's events?
Yeah, I'm going for quarters in New York. That's why I was like kind of bummed. I'm going on the weekend. I'm not going to be able to make the live show.
Well, that's your own fault. Be committed. Anyway, what do you want to what do you want to talk about on the show?
So I think fourth seeds are kind of mid, right? I don't think that it makes for more enjoyable content as far as watching. I think it excludes minor regions. Not that they generally do well, but we have higher chances that they'll actually make it in if we don't have to worry about, just in this case, the European fourth seed, the Chinese fourth seed, the Korean fourth seed taking up spots. Some people might argue that better teams, in the tournament make for it more interesting, but I think if we want to actually increase viewership overall across the world, we want to try to include as many people as we possibly can, and so I think that getting rid of fourth seeds would be beneficial for that.
Counterpoint.
Chronicler.
If you want to increase viewership and you don't include China in play-ins, you're not increasing viewership. So I think
fair.
that's good.
Give China a fourth seed. Everybody else, no.
Okay. So China gets the fourth seed, nobody else does. Wasn't that a thing at one point in time? I think there might have been a year where that was.
But it was just because of.
No, I went on Leaguepedia, and so the first time we had fourth seeds was Europe and China, and then it was
2020
and China every year.
Gotcha. Okay.
That was the first Mad Lions flop. Now they've got 2 of them in the record books. Chronicler, how important is it for you that DRX is here?
From a storyline perspective, it's great because, especially considering that this is the second year in a row that Deft has made a run. This time it was 6th. Last time he was 8th in the LCK, and Deft is one of the most universally beloved players we have. I do actually agree that from a purely like storyline and entertainment value, having 4th seeds sucks. Because as much as I love DRX, watching them dunk, watching like Deft, who's one of the best players of all time, like dunk on minor regions, is just not entertaining. And like RNG dropped 1 game to DRX and 1 game, which was one of the biggest upsets, I'd say, of the entire playing stage. And that was it. So if you want the best tournament, I think you need the 4th seeds, but eventually just turn into like top 6 LPL, top 6 LCK, and that's just it. And I don't think that's really engaging to watch. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if the 4th seeds get axed. I think that Worlds should be about having different regions fight one another, and if you want the most competitive Worlds that you can possibly get, there's a lot of other changes that I would make previous to that.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of, everybody has a lot of opinions on format, I think, so. I mean, go ahead, Mark.
Well, so I guess I was about to say, do you have like a format take or anything like that?
It's real complex.
Oh,
no,
Travis,
sorry.
did Travis have another caller?
Sorry, Infinite Crisis. I think Mark was asking. I don't think I pulled a format take because I think I was considering the fact that we talked a lot about format previously, but
yeah, well, so like I agree that like 4th seeds in the current situation don't really feel good in a lot of ways, but they do increase viewership objectively. This is more watch than they have been in the past. But at this point, you already have major regions playing in play-ins, whereas before the whole point of play-ins was to grab the best of the emerging regions teams and stick them in Worlds. Now it's like, well, they have to try and upset a major region team to even make Worlds. I've got a really fucking crazy idea. What if we just started Worlds? Just delete play-ins and start Worlds. Right now, you spend 6 days with 8-game days and double best-of-5s to slam through play-ins into another group stage that's 8 days of broadcast. Just fucking put 4 groups of 6, because there's 12 and 12, right? So you just do the play-in teams, put them into 4 groups of 6, play a single round robin best-of-5, like we just, or best-of-1, excuse me, like we just did for here, except instead of 2 groups of 6, it's 4 groups of 6. Then grab the top 4 teams from each group, or whatever you want to do, into a bigger bracket or a double elim bracket, or like fucking whatever. But if you care about viewership, just start the fucking tournament instead of doing this. I am so done with playing personally. Like, if you care about viewership, which is a fair thing to do, just start the tournament. Why do we have to have play-ins? Because right now we spend 14 broadcast days through play-ins and groups. You can do single round robin, best of ones, 4 groups of 6 in 60 games. That's 10 days of broadcast in 6 games a day. You can speed it up if you want and do 8 and 8 again, and then you'll have some spare days left over after 8 days. You'll have only 4 games on the final day. But like, why do we devote so much tournament time to like what is objectively not the most entertaining part, but we still have major regions and viewership concerns? Just play.
All right,
Just
I've been
start the
informed I
tournament.
did pull a format take, so we'll save.
my
We'll pause Mark's rant for now.
I make a comment before we pause.
Yes.
I just I mean, I think the whole point of play-ins is to give your smaller regions, a perceived chance at actually making it into the main event without any guarantee or any real thought that they'll actually make it. I think that your proposition to just throw everybody into the group stage and start there would be immediately more entertaining, but maybe feel a little bit worse because then we're back to what Chronicler was talking about, which is DRX, T1, and Damwon dunking on.
No, the problem is right now is that those teams play 4 opponents that they can easily beat. Whereas if you do it this way, there's 2 play-in teams joining each group right now with the other major regions filling out the rest of it. So there'd only be 2 emerging region teams in each group, and they can play each other to feel good. But from what I've seen from both the community and the teams, the conversation is that they want to be playing the major regions. Like Brazil doesn't just want to play Osh, they do want to play Damwon, for example,
Okay,
so if they're
what you're saying.
Yeah. So with this system, you would have just 2 emerging region teams in each group, and they get to play the major region teams. But then all the major region teams are also playing each other. So it's for Chronicler's concern about you're just watching DRX slam people. Well, they only do that twice in theory then, and then it's more competent opponents otherwise.
I mean, with the. Is there any concern that we end up in the MSI situation where I feel like a lot of people feel like it's not fun? The MSI situation is not fun because you've got a ton of like those minor region teams getting slammed by Damwon, etc.
I think the solution is to add more minor region teams to MSI. So get the top 2 seeds from all the minor regions for MSI and just have the first
All right,
seed.
we are going down a rabbit hole of fixing MSI schedule here. All I'm saying is if you do what I'm suggesting, you actually get less games from people getting slammed overall because you're just also getting good games spread out in between them. It works out. Trust me.
I really like Mark's take. I feel like MSI is way further from saving because that tournament has like a lot of other stuff going on. But for Worlds, I kind of agree. I think that kind of diluting it would both serve the purpose of not propping up, but like giving more experience to minor regions while also not having the schedule that we have now for play-ins because it's a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
CalMex is better than Tex-Mex. Just want to put that out there for Chronicler.
I agree with that. That's
I
easy.
shouted out my podcast last time, and we got 25 more viewers. So thank you, Travis.
Very good. Yeah, this is just a podcast platform where we shout out other podcasts. Thank you so much, Infinite Crisis. We'll catch you next time.
Love you all.
Yeah. All right. Mark is off to grab the next caller that he doesn't know which one it'll be because I had to pull them. Okay, Dasher777, thank you for the Prime, as well as Bubba Stabs, thank you for the Prime as well.
Stock, man.
So many amazing names that we get. Okay, EV Fighting is here for the other half of the format take. I now understand why I didn't think format take because we talked about the group stage and the play-in stage. Now you're going to help us out with the other part. EV Fighting, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. That's right.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, so I want to talk about how we finally got a best of 5 between NA and EU, and they're relatively competitive teams. We got to see an actually interesting matchup between 2 fairly comparable strength team seeds, and I think it's something World has been missing for a long time.
Wait, are we talking about the same 2 teams? It sounds like you said they were competitive and that they were fairly equal strength,
in theory.
But it did not seem to me like they were fairly equal or fairly competitive.
Well, that's fair. Going into it,
but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Damn, man.
Okay. Every year, whenever we're waiting for Worlds, I was always just hoping to see an NA team make it out of groups so we can see them play an actual best of 5, because it's so much more satisfying to see your team defeated in a best of 5 where another team fully proved they were better than them than to have them fall out in groups. I think groups is not at all a satisfying system, especially considering the top heaviness of the regions. We just need to find a way to do away with groups and have best of series all the way through.
Okay.
I would rather see my team go out in 6 games of
So
best of 5s or 8
You don't
games
want
of best
any
of 5s.
groups. EV
I
fighting.
don't want any groups. I
You just
think
want
maybe
everyone
groups are-
immediately get seated into a giant best of 5 bracket.
Yeah, I think then that also solves the issue of play-ins, because then, and not necessarily best of 5, parts of it could be best of 3 if there's double elimination with it as
Sure.
well. Because play-ins would essentially be teams that don't get buys deeper into the tournament, and then you would have a decent best of 5 system where, depending on what seed you are for what region, you start at some point in the tournament, and you get to see actually intriguing matchups. We would get to see probably an NA EU series every year. We would see the NA versus Vietnam and Brazil and whatnot series.
So we'd get to see a lot more of these series that you like. Okay.
And I'm sure everyone likes
Chronicler.
more. Yeah.
How did you care at all about the fact that it was an NAEU match? Like you're the unbiased person, presumably.
Well, he is European, so
yeah, I know. But I
Well-
don't. How much is your allegiance there? I feel like,
I mean, I've been, so to give the full background, I got into esports through StarCraft 2, and then I became an LCK fan in season 3, and I've probably watched like, I don't know, 20 hours of European League of Legends in the 10 years I lived. So I'm not invested. I'm not European. I don't really care about the EO versus NA rivalry. What I did care about, and why I really did like today's match, is things like Peter Dunn taking on Mac and Kaz. Right? I think that's really cool. Or the fact that Vulcan, like the region stuff just doesn't really do it for me. I really like today's matchup because of the historical implications and because I really like EG.
yeah.
I think swapping to exclusively best of 3s or best of 5s, if the West keeps their current setup, is an absolute disaster, because they will just get immediately knocked out and it will just be Korean and Chinese teams, and I don't think it'll be super fun. I think that having best of 1s, as much as people love to dunk on them, for entertainment value is actually very good, because there's just a lot more that can happen. They should not not be the deciding factor for actually making a deep run. Right?
Okay.
I kind of agree with Chronicler. I feel like I understand the hate on best of 1s, especially maybe in like a longer season. I also know that the groups have had their problems in terms of seeding or, like fairness in the groups. But I do think it is exciting when an upset happens. Whereas obviously DFM taking down RNG for game 1 here caused a lot of excitement. It was really cool, but in terms of impact on the tournament, it doesn't really exist. Whereas you can kaboom someone in a best of 1. And that sucks for EU, but it does create higher stakes in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you do want to have some volatility somewhat in the tournament. I mean, you don't want to have a tournament favorite go out necessarily, but I think that they also help with scheduling in terms of making an entertaining broadcast, of getting a bunch of teams in front of people's eyes. Whereas if you do best of 5s, you should really only be doing 1 a day. We did 2, but it's tough to expect fans to sit around for 8 to 10 hours. And for best of 1s, it's a little easier to cycle through teams and get everyone a chance get in front of fans and do something cool and exciting. So I do think there are some upsides. I also, from the caller, I mean, the number one thing you have to do when you suggest a format is explain how it is actually going to work with a realistic broadcast, which is something that I don't know even if you do best of 3s and you're doing double best of 3s, how are you going to get through enough games in a reasonable amount of time with 24 teams in a tournament?
2 broadcasts. Dota does it.
No.
You want dual stream?
Yeah.
That's how Dota does it.
You hide your crap on the second stream. I mean, I'm not advocating for this,
Dota
but that
does
is how
group stage,
other
by the way.
That is how other esports have done it. So
Dota does group stage, and I personally don't like second broadcasts. Inevitably, people just watch between the two what's probably the better game. Sometimes you get some nice timing where one game ends and the other one's going on. You can hop over or whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah, I like the I like group stage. I think the problem with group stage for me has always been it feels so fucking bad whenever we go like 3-3 in group stage and then lose the tiebreaker after going like 1-1 with Europe or something like that.
Just win more.
I know.
Better.
Yeah.
But it feels bad when there's such a tiny little slip, right? Like it I don't know. It feels bad.
I get it.
I know that on the Korean side, you're not ever worried about this because you guys are usually exiting in first or something.
I mean, maybe DRX drops out of groups this year. That wouldn't be shocking. They shouldn't get out of groups.
Yeah. Well, regardless,
Ooh,
we will see how
that's a
things go.
spicy take, isn't it? That seems
Not
like a
really.
spicy take.
Have you seen their top side? They were not good in the LCK. And I
They
think
beat
Rogue
MSI champs.
Yeah,
He's saying all this, but his prediction before you got here, Mark, was that all 4 LCK and all 4 LPL teams make it out of groups.
Well,
So,
I'm not saying it's not going to happen because Deft has an uncanny ability to make it to quarters. But, like, I don't think a team with as much issues as DRX should make it out of that group. I think Rogue should boom him. But every EU pundit I talk to has zero faith in Rogue, so what do I know?
well, I love it. I love it when you have 2 pundits from different regions that both have zero faith in their teams. And so you're like, yeah, I don't know if my team could get out. I don't know if Rogue could get... Anyway. All right. So thank you so much to EV Fighting for the call. We will catch you next time. But anything you want to shout out first?
Yeah, I just want to say that, just a quick question, everyone. Have you ever been hungry for an NA EU best of 5 for the past 3 years? Are you tired of the Riot Global team failing to deliver? If you're like me, you feel like Riot's left you standing on the corner, waiting for an order that'll be cold, an hour late, and not what you wanted in the first place. Thankfully, this can be a thing of the past with the Grubhub guarantee. If there is something wrong with your order, they will make it right immediately. While some competitors may just promise to look into it in a press conference and leave it there. You can try Grubhub today by connecting with your Amazon Prime account and get a free year. All right, that's all I gotta say.
I honestly am trying to think if your voice is like one that I've heard in an agency call or something like that before. It's actually very impressive. Either way, thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, all right. Hope to see you in San Francisco.
Thank you.
Bye.
Could somebody clip that for me so that I can send that to a sponsor? I won't say which one.
Coming from Europe, American commercialism is such a weird thing. Like, I know this was done jokingly, but just like so from an outsider's perspective, like I land
just
in
so you
LA,
know, you're on a show that's sponsored by.
No, I know.
I Go ahead.
I just want to
go ahead.
It's not the existence of it. It's the smoothness with which is put into everything.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very different form of advertisement than we have in the EU.
Yeah.
And obviously Korea has a little bit of a
how do they do it? Okay, so like this is a great topic because a lot of the European fans come into the subreddit and they're like, oh my god, watching NA Kona, they're just like Red Bull this and Grubhub that, blah blah blah, and like we never get this at our sports. So how is this stuff handled in EU sports?
It's just no, I'm not making any Korean advertising is crazy and is super like in your face. I'm not talking about Korea. I just don't get that as much because I don't speak Korean, right?
Sure.
So I kind of dodge those. So it's not even the existence of them because as far as I can tell, like LEC has a ton of sponsor activations as well. It's just how much they're repeated and how shameless it is coming from a country where like there is very strict regulations regarding how you can ethically advertise yourself if you're like a lawyer or a doctor or anything, and you just come into NA and literally the first thing I see is a humongous billboard of
Sweet
like
James.
We have a 3-year win streak, injury lawyers, get us now. And I'm just like, this is a very serious topic.
Yeah. Have you watched Better Call Saul? I haven't, but it's
I haven't.
very relevant.
Well, I mean, the case in point is just it's a very different style, and it's just I can't really put in. Normally I would be able to put it into words, but right now I can't. So I
No,
don't know
no,
why.
you're
I
good.
don't know why I took this on. This was a terrible idea. I'm very sorry.
Wait, doing the show? No, you're great. I'm loving it. It is very fun because I am often like, I don't know. There's definitely been episodes where like the guest and Mark have had to carry me, so I am very happy to be the one getting to carry the guest and Mark. It's been very good. Okay.
I love when I watch the LPL and the Colonel comes up with his stats to feed me chicken wing stats. That's always a good time. Love the LPL.
They're probably my favorite branding. AR vehicles that they'll put in the middle of the stage. Okay.
Or when they have everyone on stage of like in cars and whatnot driving around on their stages.
Yeah. Mark, you want to grab the next caller?
Sure.
Off he goes. No, we have so many lawyer billboards and stuff like that, so it's very fun.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen an advert, and I studied law.
Yeah.
I've literally in my entire life in the Netherlands seen like maybe 3 advertisements, and they'd be like in newspapers.
Have you seen any of the She-Hulk ads?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. They're very fun. If for folks that don't live in a area where they're doing these, I don't know if they're doing it outside of LA because the show takes place in LA, but yeah, they've done like She-Hulk lawyer ads for the show
in the same style.
Yeah, which is very fun. It's been cool to see those around LA. Okay, is it Taco or Takeo who has joined us right now?
It's Taco.
Where are you calling from?
From Japan.
From Japan.
Oh, heyo.
We love getting international callers. What did you watch the games today?
I did, yeah. Luckily, the DFM games were later, so I was able to catch those.
Nice. I forget. I don't think your take is about DFM though, is it?
It's pretty related to it, but it's about planes in general.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
So yeah, my take is that despite the presence of so many major regions, this has been the best plans that we've ever had.
Why?
So, well, to be honest, it's not a very high bar, because
okay, great.
We kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
But there was a lot more hype moments this time around, I think. At least I can't really remember any that trumped this year. So we have like the DFM hype, DFM being EG, being Loud, and then taking the game off of RNG, DFM fan here. And then Loud also had a super cool story, being a super young org, and then in their first year tying EG, and we had all those tiebreakers. And then we also had a NA greater than EU moment, so it's pretty great.
I mean, it's a fair question, which is, have there been any? So the problem for me is plans are usually just so non-memorable that I would try to think back to previous plans, and I'm like, I don't remember much of those a year later, and I wonder if the only thing I will remember from this one is NA ejecting Mad Lions. So I'm trying to decide about it. I don't know. Mark, how about you? What do you think? Was this a very good plans or the best we've had so far?
It was really good. Recency bias makes me tend to kind of agree, but I think 2017 when HKA lost was pretty cool. 2020 when Mad Lions lost was also pretty crazy because they lost a super massive in the first best of 5. It would have been like them losing to Saigon, for example, here. And then, that was also the year that LGD was terrible through the bracket stage. I think they had like 1-4 or something. But then they crushed that and still made groups, and they went and contributed to the TSM 06. So I think there have been other very good ones. I think as an NA fan, it's very easy to say that this is the best ever because we personally beat EU, and it's our first best of 5 win over them. But Taco is, I assume an LJL fan, which again, this was another good one. But was the DFM one where they beat C9 to make group stage not better last year for LJL fans?
It's hard to say since, I'm talking about plans in general. They got out last year, but I don't know if the moments were quite as hype. I think beating RNG, giving them their first loss to a minor region was a little more hype than beating C9, to be honest.
Fair.
Chronicler, how about you?
I think for memes, this was a great play-ins. We got the bot gap. You know, that was a highlight moment. That's gonna be used forever. Like that's every Reddit thread for the history. Like that's gonna never go away.
That was such a good moment.
That was a really good moment. I do think this was really good play-ins, but as was already pointed out, I also like how much play-ins is such a blur as well because there's so much games, or there's so many games rather, and like most of them kind of blur together very, very quickly. I think they were good. I think the best. I don't know. It's like maybe sure.
If it was not by much. It sounds like
I don't think this was like a blowout play-ins, but I think with things like is this the best? It's always going to depend on if you're a DFM and an A fan. Hell yeah, this was the best.
Yeah,
like obviously it would be, and I think that in terms of I really loved the EG Mad game series because it was very unexpected, and I really like EG, right? So that was great. DFM being able to get a win against RNG, I think even if that was a best of one, it would be better because it wasn't a best of 5. I don't think we're gonna remember it at all. It would have been better if it was just a single. But that was still a great moment, and then making it in the first place was nice. But is it like really miles ahead of previous play-ins?
I think the thing that was nice, like Group A felt cool with Loud and like potential 5-way tiebreaker heading in. They were good, and like Beyond maybe could have done it before they busted out. But Group B did feel kind of veg, where like a team went undefeated, a team went 0-5, a team only got a win against that 0-5 team. You know, DRX and RNG was the only close game, or like good crazy game, I guess, like high quality, and that was on the first day. Group B games were a little snoozer. And then in terms of outcome, it pretty much went to chalk. I know people often shit on NA, but like I really do think the NA3, especially this EU4, maybe there's other EU4s that could have made it closer, but just with the situation with Mad Lions kind of busting out towards the end of the season, like I think EG were favorites in that. I know the fan vote did not go that way, but like
well, conversely, if I don't know if they would have gotten there's a chance that there's an argument to be made that EG might have been able to secure a second seed if they hadn't been exploding, second or first seed if they hadn't been exploding towards the end of NA. So them getting their feet underneath them going up against Mad Lions, that strengthens your argument, I guess, Mark. I did really like the amount of like I think you mentioned this earlier, Chronicler, the amount of like storylines going in where you had like this summer's LEC MVP versus last summer's LEC MVP. I thought it was super cool that we had like JoJo versus Niski. JoJo getting like rookie of the split, Niski getting MVP. Like there was a lot of like will Mad Lions repeat the major region failing? Like there were so many fun things going into
it was really
that
good
match. So I think, to your point, maybe as an NA fan, this is like the obvious best play-ins. If you were super excited,
it really hit all the marks. And I also think EG is one of the best teams to root for from an NA perspective that you guys have had in years, because they're fun to me, and I don't particularly care that much about the region, or at least any player that isn't from Challengers or Korea. So like, and I love EG.
Why do you like them so much? As a bit of a sidebar.
It's a combination of I have always been a very vocal hater of NA teams not doing anything ever until they're mathematically eliminated, and then they start like doing stuff.
What? I don't think this.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is this coming from?
So I'd rather have EG in their ass off and like lose that way than not do anything. I think JoJo's hilarious. I think Inspire is really, really good. Impact kind of speaks for himself, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought, especially with the previous like Vulcan and Denny, to me, not only from a gameplay perspective, where I really rated them, at least in the context of the league domestically, also just a very funny contrast between Vulcan, who's extremely deadpan and like just kind of a shit poster, and then Danny being like super straight and like super down to earth. I really like the team. I think JoJo is hilarious. I also talked to Cubby, so maybe that's where my JoJo love comes from.
Oh, God. Yeah. You got sold by.
I got sold by. I mean, they're obviously, you know, they beat them.
He's taken over. So. He's taken over for Tim Seven Houston. Tim went to 100T, a team that has no North American talent on their main roster. And so you don't hear him talk about North American talent anymore really that much. Yeah. And now Cubby's become like the next big cheerleader.
I really like AG, and I'm happy that they did well. I like the Mad Lions stuff a lot, and I like their organization a lot, and I like the overall the vibe that they have. But I don't think this team was good at all, and I don't think they got properly kicked out as they should.
I'm so sad that Niski won't be continuing on because I really like Niski, and
he's a great dude.
He always pops in and out of North America every 5 minutes. Okay, Taco, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, just wanted to say, so following up on Chronicler's point, I'm Japanese but grew up in the U.S., so I actually follow NA a little bit closer than LJO. So it was just great for me in general.
Yeah,
but
we're eating good tonight.
Yeah, it's pretty hype. I had the hopium going into game 2, but coming out of that was a little sad, but it was fun. Yeah. And shout outs, since being on last time, I actually had a baby. Well, not me, but my wife. So shout out to my baby and my wife. And then shout out to the TGI Tour too. I'm really excited for that one.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun this Thursday for people who haven't been paying attention. We'll be doing the show at exactly this time, 48 hours from now. I mean, it's not starting this exact time, but you get the point. Okay. Thank you, Taco, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Hey.
All right. Off Mark goes to grab the next caller. Thank you to Naked Homeless Man for the 56 months. Always great to see you, Naked Homeless Man. It's a fantastic member of the Travis Gafford Industries community.
Yeah, I don't appreciate the wealth inequality. It's very in your face here. It's very sad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody in LA no matter where you stand.
Obviously, no one appreciates.
Yeah, yeah. No matter where you stand on stuff, like nobody's happy about it. Okay, Danksor is here. Danksor, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So my topic is that all chat and pro games should be shown on broadcast. Now I'm here to argue why I better see it for group stage. The all chat banter has been funny as heck, and it lets us see the personality in smack talk. And so I have a few screenshots of some of the conversations. I can say some of them from today's match.
I don't need you to narrate them, but
yeah, I mean, if anyone wants, you got these from Shakarez/Lol Esports, I assume, right?
Yeah, and a few other people, like the DFM versus EG1. JoJo trying to get underneath Yaharong's skin, spamming his name in all chat.
Yeah, it's basically JoJo going with mental warfare. I feel like waging mental warfare on his opponents.
Yeah. I say this without a shred of sarcasm. I'm pretty sure JoJo's the most obnoxious League player ever.
I love it.
Yeah. You should have seen the lobby, dude. But heading into game 3, he was going so hard at them with trash talk. This is obviously not quite this bad, but NBA level trash talk. Not quite Kevin Garnett wishing horrible things upon people, but the league version of that. In terms of what I've seen in pregame lobbies, just spamming Niski, what he thinks Niski's champ pool should be, telling them to come gank for him because he's going to get shit on, it got to the point where Impact was like, bro, stop. and Arma and Impact are having good-natured banter, and I don't know, man, JoJo's incredible emote spam in the game. He was in their head. They were Mad Lions players were talking about muting him. I think at one point El Yo-Yo responded and was like, you're dumb or something, but it was not a haha, you're dumb. It was shut up, you idiot kind of vibe. He's rent free in people's head.
I actually think. Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I actually think that that is even though I'd hate it personally facing it, I think it's a valid strategy. I don't know why players wouldn't just mute, but I can also imagine, as much as I'd love this to be a thing, that you'd have to run the delay on a pretty substantial broadcast just for the safety of you don't know what they're gonna say.
I mean, you just find them if they say something bad. My argument against this stuff is we put microphones in front of these players all the time, and then like there's no, in my mind, any difference between them typing something like like, especially if you, like, you can't just spring this on them, right? Like if they just suddenly start broadcasting everything, but you just tell them beforehand, just so you know, everything you say is going to be on broadcast. And I feel like a lot of them will probably say bigger things.
I'm on board
whenever they know
good
that
pitch. Yeah, I'm sold.
And I think the instantaneous, like, this is why I don't want the delay, is because I think you want it to be instantaneous. Because if somebody like wrecks somebody bot lane and then immediately just types XD, and you see that like type pop up right above the scoreboard, you know, like they figure out the UI so that it feels like it's more integrated. That's so much better than like the emote. The emote is nice, and I'm happy with the emotes, but they're easy to kind of ignore as everything is flashing on the screen. But like just somebody typing XD or something, it's so good. It's so good for the sport, right? Because there's so few moments where you actually see the players interact with each other. The only thing that we get that's close to that is when Riot does like the features team shit where they're like, hey, so by the way, Nisqy just said that you're dumb. And then the other player's like, well, he could say that I'm dumb, but he's the dumber. You know, and like a little, but when you actually have the live interaction between them, it's so good. I'm like, please, like that would actually do so much for the sport in a way where like we just don't get like in other esports, you've got like the players standing up and screaming at each other. I'm not sure we need that.
I mean, Loud basically did that, right?
Yeah, Loud was very animated as well, to be fair.
Yeah. But I am super down for,
I like it,
for this stuff, and I do feel like they'll play it up if it's the case. And then here's the final thing. They need to make it clear when a player mutes all chat. I want to know which players are running with all chat muted, and I want to know the moment that a player decides to do it.
That's nefarious. Holy shit!
It would be evil. It would be so good. I mean, like, just from an entertainment perspective, I feel like it's actually so good.
It would be. Yeah, I agree. I got nothing against it.
I have a solution. So in case truly are worried about showing, you know, whatever they say in the live broadcast, I mean, they already show tweets on the broadcast anyways. So just if they say something that's funny, you know, just pop it up on the score screen and let people enjoy it, because I think it just would have made the series so much more hype if it was on the broadcast, especially, you know, the constant, even Kaori. I don't know anything about the guy. I don't know his personality.
He's vocal.
Yeah, but this screenshot for Shakarez, sorry if I butchered your name, but he says in all chat, Draven versus Yuumi, 3CS in that game that Jojo Pion played set. Like, you know, I had no idea that this guy was like banters this way and is like so vocal. So I would really like to see more personality to players. And you know, if that's the case, I dare do over Twitter. So
I agree that they can do the Twitter panel thing. I think that's the budget version of what they should actually do. I want it live. I want it programmed into the UI like they have a bunch of the other stuff programmed in the UI. I just think like this could be really, really good for the sport and have so many great moments. Also, the last question I'll have for Mark and Chronicler on this is like, okay, Chronicler, you said you were worried about stuff being shown on the broadcast. Do you guys ever see stuff in alt chat where you're like, good thing that's not going out to the broadcast? I think Mark, even in alt, maybe this in the lobby, you said you were reading something and you're like, oh, I'm not going to say that on air because I don't know if it's appropriate.
It's pretty much just swears because they'll be like, get fucked, but it's like FKED, you know. And
yeah.
So like I'll usually say like, and then he said a word I won't repeat, and you can.
I mean, FKD is. I mean, that's sort of self-censoring. So I'm almost like, I don't even think that should be a big issue.
I mean, players say shit on broadcast, and if they're feeling really risky, they'll say fuck. But
I also think it could make Champ Select even more. If you're showing all chat during Champ Select, I just, I always have to hear these casters just be like, oh, maybe they're going to pick this. I don't know if they're going to pick it.
Tell me you don't play League of Legends without telling me you don't play League of Legends.
I've just, obviously Pick and Ban is exciting, but I think that.
No, I meant you cannot type in all chat during Champ Select, my good sir.
Oh, it's in the lobby. It's in the lobby beforehand that they're doing this, right?
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was thinking about this. All happens at once. They go to the casters, Mark, and then you guys start saying this stuff during this as you guys are getting into it, and that's what I want it.
Good save.
Yeah. Crop it out and put it up.
I have to see Sven's all chat. I've been seeing him in Champions Queue, and his all chat banter is just absolutely hilarious.
Dangsor, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, shout out to Alienware and Grubhub for making this happen. And I'd like to shout out my podcast called the LCS Fan Podcast, episode 4, tomorrow at 8 p.m. EST. And unfortunately, we do not rank how hot the players are.
My God, everybody's got a podcast. Okay, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep,
so, Mark, we had another caller in the waiting room that disappeared.
Someone disappeared. Yeah, I don't know who it was.
Who it was. I don't recognize any of the names in the other thing. So if you disappeared, please rejoin. I think we're going to do a shorter episode today, but I do want to take...
Yeah, I'll still try and find one or two more. I also just want to talk about the series a little bit analytically. I don't know if you pulled anyone for those, but
I didn't see too many people. Like, people, all their takes were like, this format is bad or something like that. There weren't too many people that were like, oh, blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah.
But if you see any in the chat, listen, everybody right now, here's your chance. Mark is looking for an analytical excuse to talk about stuff. So join the sub calls or pleb calls thing and put your takes in. We'll pull maybe 2 more folks. And yeah, Mark is grabbing the next caller. Then we'll take a break after. Then we'll take 1 or 2 more calls. Then Chronicler can go to sleep.
I definitely will not. I need to pack.
Oh God. Yeah. What time is your? Oh, sorry. Do you have a morning? I try not to give flight times. Do you have a morning or an afternoon flight?
It's not too bad. I'll be all right.
Okay.
But I like being well prepped.
Gotcha. Okay. Parnell, where are you calling from?
It's Parnelli X. And,
okay. Sometimes I shorten the names because like people add X's and shit to the edit their gamer tags. Wait, where are you calling from?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
All right. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, so I had 2 takes, and I'm not sure which one you pulled me for.
It was the second one.
It was the second one, okay. The Champions Queue?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that Champions Queue, I think, was a massive missed opportunity. I know it's doing okay right now, but I think it could have been much better. There's a couple things. First of all, announcing it earlier, and marketing it better could have encouraged some international teams to come to NA sooner, potentially to boot camp. But also...
Chronicler just exhaled very loudly in this room whenever you said that. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, well, so I think another huge issue with Champions Queue beyond just Worlds right now is that they don't allow solo queue challenger players in, and it really limits the player base. It limits the talent in Champions Queue. And considering that Champions Queue has had queue time issues for, since it's been out, just the quality has been pretty poor. And even right now with Worlds, with all the other pros come in, they're playing with a lot of, they're either playing with the hardcore pros, actual Worlds players, or they're playing with amateur players that are in Grandmaster. And I think allowing some solo challenger solo queue players in, people like Cat Evolved, for example, and just anyone that's really high ranked challenger has a good champion pool, I think would greatly improve the quality of Champions Queue.
So part of the reason go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say I think that would also I know some Worlds pros have said it's kind of okay, or it's not the best practice environment, and I think a lot of the reason is because the quality of players in NA right now that are in Champions Queue is not the best, and it could be better.
So yeah, I did pull this take because I've seen Champions Queue seems oddly controversial, I guess is what I would say. There's a lot of people on Reddit who are like, "Oh my God, Champions Queue is amazing," and then there's a lot of people. Where's the drama around Champions Queue is a failure or whatever? That was the clickbait title for the YouTube video last week. So. Yeah. I thought we could do a quick conversation about it, despite one person in chat who's very upset anytime we talk about Champions Queue. So, Chronicler, first off, you've been guffawing over there about the statement that teams would have come over earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I like the optimism, but I can guarantee you that, at least I don't know how it is about LPL. I assume it's similar. There is no shot, no matter the promotion that you do, that will make Korean players come to NA earlier to play Champions Queue. Like, there's just no dice because the Korean solo queue server or the Chinese super server are both much better practice environments. Because the high-level players, like the high-level one-tricks there, are legitimately of a level where playing against them benefits you. And I think in NA is just not really going to be the case. So it's not really dunking on the caller, but more, I just don't think that there is anything that will make... Because they just want to scrim good LPL and LCK teams. It's not really like that's going to be always the highest value practice for them. And they're playing in Champions Queue while in NA because it's the best practice environment here. So I think Champions Queue is
the best of a inferior practice environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that's just the reality of it, right? Like between the Korean server or the super server, that's just going to always be, better. So I'm really happy Champions Queue is here because I love watching it. I think it's good that the practice environment is there, but you're not going to drag Eastern pros there in any way. I personally don't think.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complicated one because I feel like the conversation got like weirdly hyperbolic when like some people didn't get in, and I think there's a good case that they should let more people in. To Parnelli X's point, I think there's a good case for some of those people not to get in. Like the point of the server is not to let in content creators and people who just want to play good League of Legends games in particular. It is very much intended to be about bettering North America. You can argue that these people getting in would help. You know, I don't know the dynamics quite well enough, you know, like for Nemesis and Shifter and Cutie and some of those people who hit Challenger to play. If it like, okay, well now they're helping reduce queue times and they're high quality opponents or whatever, and now they can play, but they're also streamers, and you know, they're like, are they here more for content, or are they here to like try and play a lot? You know, like I think there's a bit of a murky conversation there. But like I think the people who have not gotten in have claimed that the entire thing is a failure. I talked about not being pleased with Champions Queue back in Split 2 when like the queue times were dying and whatnot, and people weren't using it, and that felt bad. But I think that currently it's doing extremely well. We'll have to see how it does next year. I have not followed over the entirety of the year close enough to comment. I'm less concerned about right now, honestly, and more about next year, about what happens when all the world's players disappear. You know, I think that's the problem you have to solve for, is how do you make sure it works? Because even if you let Nemesis in now, after he says that, you know, like World's Champ Queue is a failure, if you let him in, he plays here for a month and then leaves when Worlds is over. That doesn't really help, you know, long term. What about Shifter? What about Cutie? You know, again, are they going to play League for a year, or are they going to play for a couple months? I don't know. And so like I'm not the authority on this. And there's probably some solutions that I if I was paying more attention instead of watching Worlds, I would be more informed on this combo.
What I'm getting from this is Mark wants to pull the colors from here on out. Anyway, Parnell.
No. I just don't know what to say, because like in theory, yeah, you should make it less restrictive and like let in more people who you think are good. But like, are they going to be good long term? Is that better than keeping it to a slightly more contained pool, because there's already complaints about people not being good enough? If you let in one tricks or just like random other people, I don't know.
I mean, I think the entire goal of Champions Queue should be to provide the best practice environment that we could possibly come up with in NA, because our solo queue is not going to be as good as Korean solo queue at this point, no matter what we do. So we have to kind of like do it a little artificially. And so I think that is the goal. And I don't see an argument as to how like denying some of these high level players is beneficial for Champions Queue. I know people are like against content creators, but I don't think being a content creator means you're just not going to take it seriously. You don't have to be on an amateur team to be competitive and to want to win and to try to actually strive to get better. So I think just adding more like high level, and it's not just like the couple of content creators that tweeted about it, but I think it's just like challenger players in general should see like an open, like challenger players should see like a clear path to getting into Champions Queue. That's not just joining a team, because I think it'll help the quality of NA just long term. and it'll help like drive the players. I'm a high elo one trick, and if there was like a more of a clear path to get into Champions Queue for me, I would be like kind of more motivated to actually expand my champion pool and actually get better.
Yeah, I think so. My two thoughts, or I guess only single thought, would be, in order to expand the rate and ability to let people in, you also have to expand the ability to remove them if they become problematic.
Exactly. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. It's easier to add than remove.
Well, let me throw in an idea, because this is an idea I had when there was problems earlier this year. So right now there is Champions Queue like during the splits, and there's an empty period between. And I think in the between splits, you could add in challenger players that like pass like a certain like LP, or even maybe grandmaster players, I don't know. And the like at the end of these between splits, whoever is like highest ranked, like you actually have to like earn your way into the in splits Champions Queue. So between splits, you allow more players in, and then when the split begins, you only keep in the players that performed well between splits.
Yeah, I mean, it's an option. There's a lot of options. I think some level of a council of players who you respect, review applicants. I don't know. It's tough right now. The reason I think the rules are the way that they are is because in theory they're cut and dry. I know there's been some controversy around who's gotten in or who hasn't, but like by limiting it this way, at least you just say, well, those are the people who are allowed in. But yeah.
It really just, I think it just feels like gatekeeping right now, honestly. And it's not exactly like nepotism or anything, but it really just feels like it is like, I don't know, it's gatekeeping people that are like not wanting to go all out and like join the amateur team and be on a top ranked amateur team. I think it's really just limiting Champions Queue, and Champions Queue could be amazing. I think it could be absolutely amazing, and it's just not going to be that way with how it currently is.
Parn, thank you so much for the call. Is there anything you want to shout
out? Just shout out my YouTube and Twitch, mostly my YouTube. I play Warwick and High Elo. So,
Par, I want to thank you so much for calling in. We'll catch you next time.
Also, it's Parnell. Yeah. Yep. Later.
Okay. Oh, damn it, Mark! I needed to do an ad break, and he's already left the room.
Just do the ad break now.
Oh yeah, actually, it's a good idea. He'll pull them in, dude. Chronicler, this is why you're a professional. I want to shout out Grubhub. Thank you so much to Grubhub for supporting the show. Really appreciate everything that you do. For those that don't know, TGI Worlds Tour is sponsored by. Yes, Mark, I know. TGI Worlds Tour is sponsored by Grubhub. So whenever you watch the next 5 episodes of Hotline League, they will be happening in New York, in Atlanta, in San Francisco, in part because of Grubhub's support of the show. And it's been fantastic to work with them over the course of this year. Whenever we first started working with them, I had no idea that it would lead to something so cool and so grand as the TGI Worlds Tour. And if you're going to TGI Worlds Tour, make sure that you grab a shirt or poster from the merch station, where you will be able to wear a Grubhub logo. No, I'm just kidding. Either way, thank you so much to Grubhub for sponsoring. Please be sure to use the link if you sign up for them. We'll have that link in the description. Also, I believe it's in the chat. If not, we will figure it out. Either way, thank you so much to Grubhub for sponsoring the show. It is now time for our last caller of the night. Mark is grabbing them right now, and Chronicler and Mark will then go to sleep. And I will stay on stream for an hour because I'm going to stream a little bit. Laser Fruit is here. Laser Fruit, where are you calling from?
Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada. What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right, so my take for the night is that the reason EG looked so much better during their series against Mad than they did during like the best of ones and plans is because they started playing around carry like they did with Danny, where they just funnel him gold and then play for team fights rather than trying to like dominate their lanes like Kaori was known for in Academy.
It's like he was known for Academy, you're saying?
Yeah. So like in Academy, they would play like a lot of early game picks like Callista, Lucian, And, you know, against Fnatic in the first game, they tried playing the Caitlyn Lux lane, and it went terribly. And then in the Mad series, they basically just treated him like they used to Danny and just funneled as much gold as they could into him, and it worked out much better.
Chronicler,
I have a lot of thoughts, so I want Chronicler to go first.
Yeah, do you agree with the assessment? This is the last thing we need from you tonight.
Just overall thoughts.
Bring more of me. I'd
bring
be
all,
happy to.
bring all the energy you have for this moment.
All the energy.
Whatever's in the reserves.
It's not a lot. I kind of wanted to spread it out. I don't know if we can do it all in one.
Whatever's in the reserves.
My personal take is that the biggest difference between EG initially and how they have looked is just that they got more games with their bot lane, and their Kairi just looked more comfortable. I think individually, Inspired has been good from the get-go, but both JoJo and Impact in particular, Impact was really running it, like the first day and a half of play-ins. And by the end of today, he was just dunking on Armut every single matchup. So I actually think that EG's bot lane is the least relevant part of them. I think Vulcan's really big, obviously, but I'm looking much more towards the top side of the team. I feel like if top side right now doesn't perform, Kairi, as well as he's done as a replacement slash substitutes, just doesn't have the same inevitability that Danny has. And he definitely will not when we get to groups. So I think that the top half of that team is going to be the key thing for them. And I think that that's the part that performed the best.
Yeah. All right, Mark, you have a lot of thoughts. Let's go.
Yeah, so I agree with Chronicler about like the Danny versus JoJo, or Danny versus Kairi thing. I think Kairi's probably a little bit better in lane and can play some of the more aggressive matchups, but just doesn't have that like 1v9 pop-off potential, though he did have some good team fights this series. I think EG played better than in the play-ins, but I mean, I like pulled my punches on Matt a fair amount on the cast, obviously, as when you're casting versus when you're on the AD, you're just trying to be a little bit more, or a little less opinionated and more about like specifically what's happening. And especially like I feel bad for Mad because in some sense it didn't even seem like they thought they deserved to be here with Elyoya's interview right after, where they're like, yeah, it's weird that we lost multiple best of fives and haven't won our way to worlds in any sense of the word. So like I feel bad, like I'm kind of punching down saying this, but I was just never impressed with them. They were good in the regular season. I watched them then. Honestly, they looked good. But then when I was seeing all my VOD review for playoffs, they're bad. Like straight up, I did not think their bot lane was very good. Kaiser's been struggling a lot. I know he's incredible. I know he can be incredible, but he's just not been it recently. And Unforgiven has not been able to be either a late game hyper carry bomb or an early game win con. He's been neither. And so like, you know, they tried to slam Draven and EG just didn't give a shit. like these Draven picks did nothing. Then the Kalista pick did nothing. Like those are early game win cons, and he lost Flash twice level 1. Like once on a cheesy invade by Set, fair enough, but the other time was just straight up trading into TK. Like what are you doing? They're just not very good bot lane, and Armut has 2 champs. And so like your side lanes are not very good, and then JoJo was able to handle Niski. I think Niski is a very good player, and I don't want to shade him at all, but JoJo got the better of him today. Elyoya is very, very good, but so is Inspired. So like in terms of a matchup, I think this was a terrible matchup for Mad Lions, who have not much going for them in the current meta. And I was predicting EG to win, but I didn't think it would be a 3-0. I was expecting a little bit more out of them, but watching it happen, it was like, tell me how Mad was supposed to win this series. I just don't fucking see a single angle for them other than like Elyoya and Niski just like 1v9.
Yep.
2v9, I guess.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. Don't really have a lot more of that. I think for me the kicker was, and I know it was against Deft. Deft's a really good player, but I don't know what the matchup was. I think it was MF and Leona also just got boomed in lane with no jungler intervention against Sivir and Yuumi. And when that's happening,
oh like, yeah,
what are you gonna do? Like it's just, I agree with Mark. I feel like Elyoya was extremely impressive. I think it was one of the best junglers in that group, but he's just one dude. So like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, to bring it back to the caller's point, the callers Laserfruit seem to be trying to offer us some hopium, and that hey, EG unlocked how to play they're gonna play through, you know, by working with Kaori like they did with Danny and doing all this stuff, and then both of you guys are like, nah, Mad Lions just fucking sucked. And so should we not be excited about EG going into the group stage, or should we be pretty worried?
I think into groups, no. I don't think EG's gonna. I really like EG. I want them to do well. Yeah, but I don't think their group's gonna allow them to. I think they're gonna get boomed.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the things that they were doing so well this series was, like, Impact is also not a person with, like, an incredible champion pool. It's better than Armuts, where it's just, like, Gnar Aatrox, and that's it, basically, in the meta. But, you know, Impact can get taken advantage of by a lot of carry tops if you're playing into, like, really crazy people. I need to refresh myself on exactly who's in their group because it's been a day. But the other thing is, with the bot lane, I think they're strong in lane, but the reason that they had such an easy time was that the Mad Lions bot lane problems, and they'll get tested a lot more. They're in the group with it's group B, right? Yeah, so it's G2's bot lane has been a little bit worse than I think like they had been, but they're still really good. Obviously, Damwon, they're a lot more about solo lanes. Like if they have Nuggery in there, if you're playing into 369, like I'm really worried about Impact a little bit more in those situations. I would not say it's the most bot lane focused. I think Hope is the best AD carry in that group. So like, you know, I think this is a lot more about mid and top lane for these teams. Damwon obviously with Showmaker as well and Canyon and like this kind of stuff. Like I don't think it's the most bot lane centric group, so like maybe Kaori and Vulcan will be okay, but I still think it'll still, no matter what, be better than Mad's bot lane.
Last question on this EG front. Do you guys think Vulcan gets fined for his tweet?
Suck my dick, EU? Yeah, that was a little aggro.
I think there's a 50-50 chance he gets fined.
I think if he did SMD with the video, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
I think he went all in, and you know, we'll
I
see
just
what
like
happens.
he clearly had that queued up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I wonder when he recorded the video portion. Was it before or after? Because it was in his hotel room, so I'm pretty sure he must have recorded that, ready to tweet it out.
Yes,
it had to have been before because I think he was still on stage when he tweeted it.
So here's the equation that you take. You say, okay, if I spent to boost my Twitter account and it would give me this many followers and this much engagement, how much would that cost versus what is the fine that I'm going to have to pay to figure out if it's a smart financial move? That's how you decide. Okay, Laserfruit, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
I'll shout out Alienware and Grubhub. And I also want to shout out Elyoya because I think he played very well today, but unfortunately he was on the worst team. But I do think he deserves props for his play, not just in this series, but like all of play-ins. I think he's a very good jungler.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, have a good night.
Yeah. All right, that is the show. I would like to, first off, ask everyone in the chat right now, if you are a sub, please use the clapping emotes that I have to clap for Mark and Chronicler, who are hanging by a thread over the course of this show after a long, exhausting day on the broadcast. Mark gets paid to be on the show, so you can clap even harder for Chronicler, who, like a madman, agreed to do this at the start of today.
It was a very bad idea in hindsight.
Yeah, I same thing that I thought for the dive. I could have said no to the dive, but like they asked me at 3:30, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll hang out. RNG will 3-0, and then I'll be good. And then dragged, and now it's 9:30, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
So yeah, a bit of a shorter episode today, but that's okay because you're still getting way more Hotline League than you normally do. Please be sure to tune in at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern on Thursday for TGI Worlds happening. Mark and I are going to be there. We'll be joined by Doublelift. If you're in New York, there's still, I think, some spots available on the Eventbrite to sign up. If you don't get in via the Eventbrite, please show up for general admission. It's going to be great. Mark, do you have anything you want to shout out?
Shout out Pastry Time with the cast. I don't know if anyone saw his tweet longer, but he is done with casting. Put out a good tweet longer to read. So everyone give him some kind words.
Reddit pointed out that his last cast was EG 3-0ing EU.
Go out on top, baby.
Yeah, it's a good one. Chronicler, anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to anyone who worked on plans. The team all worked really, really hard. These days are very, very long, and yeah, I really want to shout out not just Pastry, although he deserves a special shout out, as mentioned by Mark, but also people like Goldberg, Lyric, Dash, Quickshot, and everyone else that I'm not naming right now, all doing a really good job. And shout out to "Run Away with Me" by Carly Rae Jepsen. It's a really good song. You should listen to it. It's a banger.
Great, glad, happy we haven't ever had that type of shout out before. Okay, wait, Mark. Last question: is there a blame game this week?
Will you kill me if I cancel it tomorrow? I need to see how I'm feeling, and also like I have other things I need to do tomorrow.
You're traveling, so if I don't know, we'll figure out. Maybe you and I can do a bonus video or something like that at Worlds where we can sit down and talk about something.
Yeah, I'll figure something out. I'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow at the end, like in what everything else I have to do and whatnot.
Yeah. All right, everybody, that's the show. Please tune in 2 days for TGI Worlds. Thanks, Chronicler. Thanks, Mark. See you all later.